Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and for the last week I've been driving the 2026 Mazda CX-50 Hybrid Premium Plus. Up front is a 2.5-liter inline-4 as well as a hybrid system, and down below is an eCVT. Now, I am super excited to be making this video here today because I've spent the last week driving the CX-50 Hybrid, and the first time I drove the CX-50 Hybrid, unfortunately in the same color, so the footage looks the same, but the last time I drove it, it was actually under embargo, it was a pre-production vehicle, and it hadn't even released publicly yet. And so today, we get to drive the CX-50. It's been out for almost a year, and I've gotten more time to spend with an actual production version, which I'm excited to share with you here today. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that hybrid system under the hood. Well, if you're unfamiliar with the CX-50 Hybrid or Mazda, this is actually not a Mazda powertrain. This is a Toyota powertrain. So it is a Toyota 2.5-liter inline-4 and 3 of Toyota's electric motors. Now, all paired together, that makes about 219 horsepower, which is more horsepower than the naturally aspirated standard Mazda CX-50 with the Mazda engine. However, less horsepower than the Mazda CX-50 Turbo with its turbo Mazda engine. So the Toyota engine slots right in between. However, this gets the best fuel economy by far. I've been averaging about 37 miles to the gallon. However, the sticker will cite a little bit more. Paired to it is an eCVT. Again, this is a Toyota part. And this is really the only downside of the drivetrain, is that it's a little bit drony. I don't have any worries about transmission reliability. It just kind of feels weird, but that's it. You know, taking off in an airplane feels pretty weird, but I like the places it takes me. Same deal here with the eCVT. Last but not least, the CX-50 Hybrid is all-wheel drive, and you can only get the Hybrid in all-wheel drive because it utilizes those 3 electric motors, and so they only come in all-wheel, which I prefer here in the Midwest. How does it feel to drive the Mazda CX-50 Hybrid? Well, that's one thing that's great, is that it actually still drives a lot like the standard CX-50, which is great. Sure, when you floor it, you do get that annoying CVT sound, but other than that, the dynamics, the chassis, the handling, the steering is all Mazda, which I've always praised Mazda for being the best at. And so, I think this works really, really well. Visibility is good. Ride quality is good, and as I mentioned, it's all-wheel drive only. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 3 gauges, some digital, some physical. Off to the left, instead of a tachometer, we get our power and charge gauge. This will tell you when you're charging the battery, as well as how much you are using of said battery along with the gas engine. In the center is our digital gauge. You could swipe this around for a couple different things. I really like the look of this. And then off to the right, we have our coolant temperature and fuel. On the steering wheel on the left, we have our volume, skip track, and phone options, as well as our info that will change that digital screen. And off to the right, we have our adaptive cruise control. This does have Mazda's radar cruise, and it is a very good system. Off to the left, we get a climate control vent. We get our safety features off, parking sensors off, and traction control off, as well as our gas cap release. Kind of a funny holdover from Toyota because Mazda doesn't do that. And then we have our memory seat options down below. Moving out of the door, we do have our power locks, power mirrors, and power windows. And moving into the center, we get our infotainment display. This does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's pretty barren besides that. I really wish that it got like a hybrid page or something telling me what the battery or what the electric motors are doing, kind of like what you see in every Toyota product. And Mazda actually did this for their electric vehicle, the MX-30, so they have a software page for it somewhere. I wish that they included it here in the CX-50. We do get a backup camera. Again, would have loved to have seen a 360 camera for this price tag, but the backup camera is decently clear. Down below, we do have a climate control vent, kind of off in the middle of nowhere. And then we have our climate controls. I've always praised Mazda for their compact, very user-friendly climate controls. Works really well. Dual zone climate, heated and ventilated seats here for the Premium Plus. Hazard switch in the center. Absolutely love this part of the interior. Down below, we do have a little cubby as well as cup holders. We'll do a big friggin' bottle test. I don't think any modern Mazda really passes the big friggin' bottle test. So there you go. And then we have our shifter. Now, the shifter itself does look a little bit different than the standard Mazda shifter because it is a Toyota part. Off to the left, we have our MI drive for trail, normal, and power. And off to the right, we have an EV button. So we can set the vehicle to EV mode, and it will drive in EV mode. However, it is pretty limited. As soon as you hit a certain speed, it turns off. As soon as the battery runs out, obviously it turns off. So you could use this getting in and out of the parking garage early in the morning. You got an early shift. You got to get out of your apartment complex. You can keep it in EV mode, and you'll be fine, but not too much more than that. Then we have our selector in the center for the infotainment. I've always liked this. It always has very good feedback. And off to the left is our power parking brake and auto holding brake. And off to the right is our volume that can also be used as a skip track dial and our favorite button. Then we do get a wireless charger. Now, I have an iPhone 14 Pro, and it does not charge my phone. It will hold the charge, and I saw it go up about 1 or 2%. But by the time I took it out of the charger, it was right back to where it was. I did an hour-and-a-half drive, and I gained 0% on that. Although it says it's charging, and it did hold my phone's charge, even while I was using Spotify and Apple CarPlay, it's not great. So don't expect the world out of this. However, in the center console, you do get USB-C chargers, so I've been using those quite frequently. And then the seats. Obviously, the seats are red leather. Love to see that. They're heated, ventilated power, and the driver's seat is memory. So all nice features there. And during my time with it, they've been comfortable seats. Mazda makes pretty good seats. If you're unaware, I own a 2019 Mazda 3, and I've done over 113,000 miles in it, and I've been pretty comfortable as well. So the CX-50 isn't much different. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats. So let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2026 Mazda CX-50 Hybrid Premium Plus, and a couple of things to note. First of all, if you have eyeballs, which I hope you do watching this video, the red does carry on back here. Love to see that. Absolutely sweet. We do have heated seats back here. We have dual USB-C chargers, so a little bit more modern there than Mazda has been recently. 2 climate vents. We also do get a center console with 2 cup holders in there. Size-wise, I fit okay. I manage. My knees do hit the seat in front of me in my driving position. My head is getting very close to the ceiling. With my sunglasses on, they touch the ceiling, but without them, they don't. I'm 5'11", not a small guy. The new RAV4 is going to have a comfier back seat and a more sizable back seat. However, Mazda's never been great on back seats. I think the CX-5 is decent. Mazda 3 is terrible. Mazda CX-30, awful. CX-50, They've never really focused on backseat space up until you get to the CX-70 and CX-90, the lot larger vehicles, and then you sort of lose the driving dynamics that make these cars so great. So you kind of have to pick one or the other. That being said, it's not a terrible place to be. I don't mind it. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. I really hope I'm not child-locked. I'm not. It's a good day. All right, we're on the back of the Mazda CX-50, single button in there, and of course it does have a power-operated tailgate. Once we are around the back, couple of things to note here. We do have handles to lower the second row, push it like that, and then you would. So that is a nice feature. We have an LED light. We have this nice CX-50 mat down here, as well as we could pull this up. And we do get a spare tire. In the middle of that spare tire is the quote-unquote subwoofer for the Bose system. It's not really a true subwoofer, but, you know, acts like one. And there you go. Pretty plain and simple. We do have a nice privacy cover we can pull out. Love to see all of that. And then you can come up here and either lock the vehicle or close the tailgate. Nice, smooth, very nice to see from the Mazda Motor Corporation. Now we got to talk about the looks, and I do love the look of the CX-50. Now the whole point behind the CX-50, because they still make the CX-5, it didn't replace the CX-5. The whole point of the CX-50 was to be a more macho, more masculine version of the CX-5. The CX-5 is the best-selling, not SUV, not mid-size SUV or compact SUV. It is the best-selling Mazda product ever. Out of all the cars they've ever made, the RX-7s, Miatas, Repus, B2200s, whatever it might be, they've sold more CX-5s. And so the idea behind the CX-50 was to be a more macho, masculine version, because most CX-5s are actually sold to women, which I think is actually a very good tell of a car being actually good, but we'll talk about that maybe in another video. So the CX-50 is that more macho, more masculine, more hard lines, more rugged looking version, basically, of the CX-5, although it really shares underpinnings with the Mazda 3. Don't think too hard about it. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving another Mazda CX-50 for a week? I like it. I mean, I'm always going to like it. I love Mazdas. Mazda is my favorite brand for sure. However, I think this is kind of a best of both worlds scenario because you get that Toyota drivetrain. It's going to be very reliable. It's going to work well. It's going to pump out very good MPG numbers. However, the interior and driving dynamics are pulled from Mazda, of which I prefer. This car is a lot more fun to drive than the Toyota RAV4, besides the new RAV4 GR Sport. I mean, that car is pretty good. This is a nicer place to be than the 2025 RAV4. I would say somewhat on par with the 2026 RAV4. Toyota really stepped up their game for the next generation. And that's my other point. Yes, this is now older Toyota technology. This isn't their most cutting-edge hybrid system. However, I'm fine with that. If we're going to copy someone's homework, it ought to be Toyota. I remember in college, I caught someone trying to steal my answers on a test, and I said, buddy, I ain't the one to copy. I have no idea. I'm flying blind over here. You gotta copy off the smart kid in the class, and Mazda is copying off the smart kid in the class. It's not like there's a Nissan hybrid system under the hood from the Pathfinder that was 2014 only. No, this is good stuff, albeit a little bit dated, but it's good stuff. And that's my one other final thought, is that this is an experimental vehicle. It doesn't have the camo on the outside. It doesn't have weird plates. It's not spotted up in the mountains doing altitude testing. But this is a relatively experimental vehicle for Mazda. They weren't really sure how to go about the hybrid world. And so they called up their friends at Toyota, aka their stakeholders, and said, hey, let's do something together. And that's what this vehicle is. Now on the horizon, apparently for the 2027 model year, we're going to see a Mazda CX-5 hybrid with an in-house Mazda hybrid system. Everything that Mazda has now learned from Toyota, they're going to apply for themselves. And so this was a lesson. This is Toyota learning to work with Mazda. This is Mazda learning to work with Toyota. And now, there are reports that either the next-gen GR86 or possibly the next-gen Toyota Supra is going to be Mazda-based. So this connection, this relationship is now flourishing because of this car. And that is something very special to see, and it's cool to be behind the wheel. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Mazda for letting me borrow their CX-50 Hybrid Premium Plus for today's video and for the last week. Huge thank you to Drive Shop for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle, and of course the Midwest Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.